to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing to approve the minutes. We have changed the date from the 24th to the 31st. Other than that, any motion to approve? Yeah, it's on. I think there's a light on.
You're good.
Don has moved.
All second.
Tim second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Consent agenda. Move to authorize and direct the chairman to sign Coffee County payroll notice for Sheila Swank, new hire, Health Department Public Health Nurse Assistant, classification TPA 5, with a wage of $20.69, effective 9/20, 9/7/20.
That's as corrected, right? Because it says Shelley on there.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I should have noted that, yes, it does say Shelley on there, the actual name is Sheila.
I was looking at that, but man, I've never seen it spelled that way before.
Yeah,
I'll make that motion.
okay. Bob moved,
I'll second.
Fred seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. It looks like we have Wayne on at 9:05, and we are a couple, 2 or 3 minutes ahead. So. Wade is in court today, so if we need him, so they'll notice he's probably down here. Did you point out the latest from Goldberg, reports from the jail study? The history of incarceration only goes back 3 years. Don was mentioning maybe 10, so was Wade. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I don't know why they just went back to 3.
Now, I do know their projection as far as inmates goes out to 2030. So.
Right.
You know, my thought on Mike, with this type of extensive project, overall cost, there needs to be a minimum of 10-year history.
No, I agree.
Probably in 15 or 20. And there needs to be a column for population. Is it up or down? But there needs to be a lot more information in that.
Right.
Well, it actually
The
does.
3 years history is absolutely not enough.
They actually do give the totals per the year, but
And there could be a method to their madness too. They may have to explain that on why they only do
do we have a person that can contact them to get an answer for that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we need it right away, but
No, yeah, I can give it to the sheriff and he can contact Larry and ask that question.
it'd be great.
So,
It'd be great. Anybody else sees anything they want addressed? I mean, projections go up throughout the years as far as incarceration, so, which I'm sure that's anticipated nationwide, so.
well, Wade asked me during roundtable to bring up our jail stuff. I mean, just in a week, we've had 15 arrests in a week.
Yeah.
So, and 3 of them are still in jail. And then, so, yeah, it's,
You can come on up, Wayne.
okay.
What's their projected time on having this finished up? I
Don't know.
don't have any idea.
No, I didn't even get this email,
Okay,
so.
I just was on our desk this morning.
Yeah,
I didn't get it via email either.
no, I have no idea.
We can discuss it around table here in a minute.
Yep.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Construction zone. Okay, well, we'll just jump in here. From the engineer's report, no road permits were issued, no zoning permits. We do have a zoning hearing this week. Landfill numbers, and then we have a motion to accept for the culvert bid. And so, moving right on to the motions then. What we have is, we had three bidders, Metal Culverts, J&J Drainage, and Welborn Cells. And Welborn Cells was the low bid and best bid. So $71,926.50. This is a number of pipes that we have, mostly for stock, and that are being used throughout the county. And so at this point, they're coming out of the Road Bridge Fund. But as they're used for special bridge, they'll come out of that fund later. So,
Okay, so Wayne has a motion, 2020-45, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer. Move to find that the bid for assorted culvert pipes be awarded to Welborn Sales Incorporated, Palaca, Kansas, as the best bid, and to purchase same for the sum of $71,926.50. Funds to be paid from the Road and Bridge Fund.
We've been putting quite a few pipes in, because evidently we did this not too long ago.
Bob, I'm thinking this might have been our second time, but I'd have to research that one, but it's been early in the year. And actually, I think that bid that we had specific locations throughout the county, and we charged that over to the special bridge, because we already knew the locations.
Okay,
These are mostly for stock, for the most part, but we are putting in pipes, you can see on the construction zone, weekly, so they are being used.
also move.
Bob has moved.
Oh, second.
Tim seconds. Any further discussion?
I'd like to ask Wayne, you know, we're putting in 40-foot pipes on our ag.
For our entrances, that's
Most of
correct.
them are what, 15 inch or 12?
Well, what we try is probably 15-inch would be a better average if we try to find an average per se. But as we know, each mile has different sizes, so it's kind of difficult to come up and just say 15. What we're trying to do is as much as we possibly can is not to interfere with the water flow, the current water flow, and that would be to look upstream and downstream of existing entrances. Because as you design these, as you design them for, say, a 5-year storm, 10-year storm, I've seen it both ways. But for the most part, for our county policy, we've been doing it for 5-year storms. But I also have designed for 10-year storms. And so what does that mean? That means basically as you design for a higher storm probability, then you're also increasing the water flow potential. But here lately, the weather's kind of been crazy for the last couple of years, and you know what we would have thought for a 100-year storm has occurred several times. So,
What created my question, and I looked at the wrong line, because I thought maybe the 30-foot were cheaper per foot than the 20s. So like I said, I got mixed up on lines going across. I was just kind of curious why there wasn't 40s in there, so you eliminate a band. But the band's only 1940s, so,
yeah.
and the 220s put together would be easier to handle, so.
Okay.
That's only discussion. I just got it on the wrong line, Tom.
Anyone else?
I second 5 feet per foot.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, going into construction zone, as you can see, this is our proposed, work for the week. We are working 7 to 3:30, that's back to our normal schedule, so this point on, we'll be working from 7 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. Today, obviously, with the holiday, it reflects a Tuesday through Friday. So our bridge crew right now has a couple locations. They're putting some entrance pipes in, crossroad pipes. Also our landfill. For the most part, I'd like to go back to the landfill and discuss it just a little bit. But for the most part, we are finished with the landfill. We have, the liner, is complete. But there is some fabric, and that'll be something I'll be discussing with you here in just a little bit. The getting prepped and ready for the fog seal. We only have a small portion, about 1,000 feet of double chip seal that we're trying to finish. That'd be in the Leroy area, that we have that location. Then basically next week, when the weather's a little better, then we'll be fog sealing. Thing is, when I say the weather has to be a little better, is because of the temperatures. Right now, you're looking at temperatures this week due to the cold front that's come in close to the 50s. Once you find those cooler temperatures, you're going to find it more difficult for that emulsified asphalt type material to actually evaporate the water that's in it. So be more difficult to be able to maintain safety and be able to maintain that oil from actually coming up on, wicking up on the road, wicking up on the tires and different things like that. So this week is really kind of a poor week for us to be able to do any of the chip seal, fog seal. But next week would be the time that we see the weather be a little better, that we'll be finishing up our chip seal and also our fog seal.
Are the plans now to fog seal all these new chip?
We may have to come to a point where we're going to be selective on a few of those just because of timing. Our fog seal is going to need to be down at least 2 weeks prior to striping. And we're coming into striping about the middle of October. And it's really kind of dependent upon temperatures as well, is kind of your dates that you're looking at, saying these are the last possible dates as far as getting striking down. And so we are fighting the time on that just a little bit. So our fog seal, hopefully we'd be able to put that down in a couple of weeks. We'll pick the major roads first. Then if we have time, we'll come back to the minor roads. So what's a major road? A major road would be like 12th Road, Trefoil, those type of roads that we have done the chip seals on that's basically heavy travel. And so if we put the fog seal on there, we'll maintain more of our chips, is what we found in the past. And so trying to find ways and manage the time as we could. Other than that, we are continuing to mow. We'll be mowing back shortly, and actually in the process in some territories. We're also looking at, being in our fourth quarter, we're also looking at our rock inventory and seeing what projects that we can actually add more additional rock on some roads that we identified here last year as far as our gravel road enhancement. So we're working on that as well. I'll give you more on that report later. PBX finished up the bridge over there on Emmer between 8 and 8.5. What they had done is about in the middle of it, there was that sag about 1.25 inches. They had to fill that sag area. It does ride smoother. I mean, it's not a brand new bridge, but it does ride smoother. I don't know, Bob, if you had a chance to go over it since they opened
We'll
it
be
up.
there tomorrow night.
Be there tomorrow night. Okay.
I was over it. It was better.
There's, if you get out, and I'm not asking folks to get out, don't get out in the middle of the road without protective measures, but actually some of the asphalt at the abutment actually has settled, and so we're going to do a little dressing up on that. There's a need to do a punch list on all 6 bridges with the contractor, and we're in the process of working with the inspector to do that. And so it's fairly finished, I mean, but I don't have the total numbers at this point. So PBX should not be closing any additional bridges at this time. We're pretty much done. There is possible some testing as far as making sure that we have the proper seal on on that polymer. So.
And they've been checking out that, on the county line there by the rock quarry, Apex Rock Quarry, that bridge there. I see where somebody's been doing some,
Yeah, that's Lyon County's,
okay.
but not ours.
I didn't know if there was a share in there or not.
Not on that one.
Okay.
Actually, the county line is inside of that bridge.
Yeah.
It's just it's a quarry site. I mean, we do have that quarry on the east side, but.
I just noticed there were a lot of markings on there, so I assumed they were examining the quality of that bridge as well.
Most likely, that's what they were probably doing. But at this point, that's, deals with our contractors. We have not heard from Kilo as far as doing the intersections. They were advised to contact the co-op, at least a day prior to, their schedule, as far as going down there on California Street 58. So that's the plan, but I do not have their schedule at this point. And we also have Kilo, as per bid, as per contract, to finish up that section on 12th Road, and that would be the bridge that we finished up according to PBX. So those would be the entrances. So currently, right now, we have the signs that says slow bump 45, I believe. So that's still yet to be finished. Before I move on to the landfill, to advise you on the update on the landfill, is I had a request from the Corps of Engineers. This is the road, the ramp down from the Embankment Road. So as you know, that area, there's actually was a patch that was dug out and patched back by the Corps of Engineers here last year. They're asking assistance to be able to go back and patch that. We'd like to assist them. So what that would mean is they would pay for basically labor and equipment, and they would also participate in this repair as well. They're going to have at least one gentleman with some equipment to be able to assist in the patching. And so if that's okay with you, I would like to go ahead and assist them as we can. It would probably be either sometime next week when we get some oil in, and be able to patch it at that point. So.
I think it'd be a good idea because it's a well-traveled road and our road leads to it. So I think I have no problem with Delta Corps on that.
Yeah. Otherwise, they contract that out, so it's pretty expensive. I'm sorry. All right. So that's all right. It'd be basically labor, equipment, material, as we have set up with our cities. It would be the same type of agreement that we'd have with them. It shouldn't be that much, but for them to hire a contractor to come out and do it, you know, we have received bids that's everywhere from $2,000 to $6,000, $2,000 to $10,000 for small quantities, and then move in basically the equipment. So, okay.
I know they were talking about a concrete patch there, but
Yeah, he moved away from that. At this point, it's just cold mix is all we're thinking they'll put back. It's not going to be permanent. I'd say more of a concrete type patch or more permanent patch is something they're going to have to deal with. But to be able to come into winter and to have a gravel patch is not necessarily a very good surface for basically snow and ice removal. So rather have at least a cold mix patch onto it than nothing. So, okay. The other one would be the landfill itself. What we have is, for the most part, the landfill quantities that I have, and I don't have them all at this point, is their quantities did not go over the projected quantities per plan, per contract. Their quantities were actually less, but we did have to open up a little bit wider of the old cell. So as we're tying into cell number 3, we actually had to uncover about 15 more feet of cell number 3. And so during that process, they found some tears in the liner. Who knows how, you know, that developed, but it needed to be fixed. So at the end of it, they had about 120 some patches that they were required to basically fix the old liner. And we are also too, we're short some fabric to be able to finalize that. Well, what does that mean? The existing liner is welded to the new liner. So actually our landfill is operational. Cell number 4 is operational. Any rain that we receive at this point actually is going to become leachate that will come into cell number 3. And so we're operational. The only thing we don't have is about 15 foot of fabric to be able to put the rock down onto. That's basically the filter rock. That's not going to stop our operation because we have quite a bit, over 3.7 acres, that we're needing to build with rock that we have basically ready. And so that's something we're working on. At this point, the crew that had worked onto it has moved out. There's another crew that's expected. And we're working with Ham Construction to actually purchase 2, possibly 3. We're measuring up the quantities or what the projected quantity is going to be. But Ham Construction right now out of Lawrence actually has the rolls that we're needing, the fabric that we're needing to finish it. And so what it would be is at their cost, we would just basically pay for those rolls. Why is it so important? Those rolls actually have certifications on them that would be transferred over. We have some extra rolls that was left over from cell number 3, but those rolls are only good for 1 year from the certification. So, they're of no value to us at this point, but we are going to have some additional costs associated with that, and then also the patching. And so, if I may, this is some of the patching. And this is looking down. As we tie it into it, this is the weld, basically right in here, where we weld the new liner into the old liner. This blue is where the plywood's at. So everything to design basically matched. This is the fabric that's lacking to cover this old liner, is what we're dealing with there. And this is looking down the liner there.
So you said we're basically finished with it then, so will we start putting debris onto that surface?
Well, as far as the contractor side of it, we're virtually finished with it. The only thing we need to do there is put that fabric down. What they have to do at this point, Bob, is since the liner's down, the fabric's down, then they're to put the flowable rock onto it, the filter rocks. And so on the filter rock, they're needing to place a foot of filter rock onto it. Then after that, is they place 2 to 3 feet of selected soil, which would be soil material waste that would not necessarily puncture the liner. Is what we're trying to find is more soft waste, I guess is the a way to explain it. And so we place approximately about 3 foot of that, and then at that point we'd be placing the MSW, the solid waste, onto it. But at this point we're not at that point where we need that additional space at this time.
Right, but I was thinking the last time, I was thinking that we went ahead and we put some on it just to hold it all down in place and stuff after we got it to the fiber and the rock in, and we put some debris on top of it to just kind of hold it in place, or if we did that again.
Well, we will, actually a little sooner than we need to place the waste. And the reason for that, and this is something that the operation of the landfill was explained, is the reason that we place that additional waste in that area is that once you do that, is you're to place intermediate cover, what they call intermediate cover, and that's 6 inches of soil on top of the waste. And then at that point, any rain that comes down on the soil at that time can actually run off and not become leachate. And so that's what we're trying to prevent, is the rainwater that actually comes into the cell. So if you take a look at the cell, 3.9 acres pond, all becomes, if we get 2 to 3 inches of rain, the volume of that water, if we cannot divert it, or then it all becomes leachate, because it's all coming into cell 3, which is coming down to the sump pump. And so then at that point, we're trying to minimize how much leachate, because at that, we have to actually remove the leachate, place it on top for evaporation, or we actually have to ship it out. So it costs us more money. So we're trying to eliminate the surface rainwater from the landfill, and that's why we place that additional waste onto it. It's good conversation, but that's the reason why we place it on there. So But just to let you know, that's in, progress right now, as far as the landfill. I do not have any numbers, but there will be a charge for those additional patches. And we will be purchasing, additional rolls from Ham Construction, at their cost. So once I get their invoice and once I figure out how much we need, then I would, purchase the rolls accordingly, let you know what the prices are, and that's kind of how we're moving with it. We're limited on these, we cannot purchase this, it would take at least 40 days from the mill to be able to get these, but we can do it this way. We can just go up there and pick them up, bring them in, and then once the liner folks are back in the area, which they are expected to be, then they can come back and finish that roll.
So how long do you expect before we will actually start using this new cell? I mean, I know the other's not full yet, so, I mean.
Well, at this point, we would do what you were talking about just a little bit earlier. We would do that within, this winter. I mean, we've been in the process. We're gonna have at least a couple weeks to put the rock down. And then after that, then we're going to place that soft material on top of it. And so we'd be into the winter at that point. When would we actually use waste onto it? It'd probably be the early part of next year. Just some projections. Keeping in mind we're somewhere around 7,000 tons of waste. At this point too, is when you look at the configuration of it, since we already have the south berm completed on 1 and 2. We have the east berm completed on 2, 3, and 4 now. That means that you can bring that level of waste up taller than what we've had in the past. And so as we're able to actually utilize the airspace that we're permitted for, we can actually bring that waste up taller than what we currently have. So what that means is, like our next cell, we're projecting over 8 years out compared to 6 years in the past, is because the configuration right now, we're able to actually raise that level of waste versus spreading out. So that's a good thing. It just means that our investments that we have been using for it was 4 years, now 6 years, now 8 years. We're continuing to extend the life of the landfill. So, okay. That's all I have. Just to pick up a little bit on Old 50, if you have some guidance on that, if you'd like me to bring in a motion to maybe have a project for this year for widening on Old 50, I can do that.
As far as laying asphalt shoulders, I mean, we're probably getting close to not getting something done in that.
That's correct.
In that aspect, but
Yes, sir.
a spring project would be, I mean, it's been this long. What's my thinking? Been thinking about it over the week. I think we just need to proceed ahead and get those shoulders repaired.
Okay.
In my opinion. I don't know if anybody else pondered it or.
I kind of looked. We definitely need to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would agree with Tom, springtime.
Well, I mean, asphalt season ends almost by the end of October, so I mean,
That's correct.
with most asphalt people I know are pretty tied up and
Mm-hmm.
hoping to get everything done before it does that.
Asphalt would pretty much be out. I agree. The only thing that could be done, and I can't even say that it could be done because it might be the contractors are too busy. The only thing that could be done would be actually milling or grinding the edge and then just compacting it. So what you're doing is you're converting it back to a gravel shoulder. That would be the only thing that you could do.
And I thought we had talked about that a few months ago. That's probably the thing that we need to do, is put it back to the way that it was before, basically with the shoulders, and go from there.
But at this juncture, it would be a milling. It wouldn't be necessarily a blade, because the milling, they would have to mill up the asphalt. Because the asphalt's actually incorporated into the shoulder. And so it's a hard surface. It'd come out in chunks if we didn't mill it. And so that would still require a contractor, but I wouldn't even know if they would have the time to do it at this juncture. But if we wanted to enter into a contract just to mill it, that's an option. then I could start it and see if we could even get a contractor. But keeping in mind, it takes generally about 30 days to go through the bidding process, with bids and everything that we're required to do.
I came back from the city the other day and turned off the Waverly exit, so I drove from there west. And I was seeing two spots, east of 75, we've had some repair work to do. And then I went 4 miles east of 70, or west of 75. And looking, this information that we received through the email, the original 7 miles, did we just lay 2 inches of asphalt on top of the aggregate that was in place?
Yes, sir.
And there was no felt?
No fabric, nothing was added at that point.
I fully agree, something's gotta be done,
Mhm.
but we gotta make sure what's done this time is the right thing. And I hate to spend that much money without making sure it's the right thing to do. So with this new proposal, that 2 foot, talking about milling it down, how deep and how much you gonna put in there? Are we gonna use felt to take care of the issue?
Absolutely. What you have is, the initial project was a maintenance project, and then we added the additional asphalt on the shoulders.
Probably wasn't even too good of a maintenance program.
But we had, at that point, it was less than from basically the presentation that was done in, 17. What you had is basically, the bulk of the work was done on the 20 foot of Old Highway 50. We were dealing with the joints at that point. We milled it, we overlaid it, and we also had replaced the joint material. So when you saw basically the presentation that was done in 2017, that's what most of it was. The additional asphalt was to say, okay, can we make this a little bit safer with minimum cost? That's where it was. That's basically the experiment that took place. So we made it safer also on your presentation too. It shows basically what the crash data shows from the federal highway, that narrow roads have a higher level, 10%, almost a 10% higher level of potential crashes. I mean, and that's the reason why they go wider. So that's where we're at. But to go back to what you said is then, after that, the next year, we had done the east side of 75. And the observation that basically the shouldering, we had some issues with those if they were weak. And we had truck traffic, increasing truck traffic, then what can we do better? And the idea was the fabric. I am sold on that fabric. I think that fabric does a tremendous amount of work on maintaining the integrity of the asphalt. One is we experienced it on the intersection of California. That was fabric that was added, and that was 5 years ago, I think. So we added fabric on that. This particular project, it's yet to be finished out and designed, but initial overall concept is to find a significant base, and that would be like a cement treated type base, and then also a significant thickness of asphalt. And that would be closer to that 6 inches to be able to handle truck traffic. But what you're also wanting to do too is you're wanting to tie that addition, that 2 foot, actually into the pavement. And you're wanting to do that with fabric. I mean, that would be the ultimate.
If you tie that in with fabric, you gotta relay an inch of hot mix on the 20 feet.
It's close to 2 inches, but yes.
So you'll have to lay another 2 inches on top.
That's correct. That's correct. This is not cheap. From the very beginning, it's not cheap to widen Old Highway 50. But also too, from that information, this was the core information that we had received from the geologists out of Wichita. We see an average of 6 to 8 inches of concrete. We see another average of asphalt about that thick as well. If there's one road that actually is thicker as far as structure than any other road that we have, it's Old Highway 50. We have far more structure strength. The only problem that we have with Old Highway 50 that's going to be a future problem, something I've said before, is those joints. Those joints are going to continue to heave up. Even though I've done the work and I've done at least 2 times on these joints is basically is to fill that joint with, joint filling material. Then I also place fabric over the top of it. Then we place asphalt over the top of that. That's only a temporary fix. I mean, when you're dealing with concrete and concrete is actually heaving and cracking, falling apart, which some of those cores show it, it's going to continue to do that until you can actually saw it out to get to good concrete. And as you were doing the calculations, you know, you're looking at a joint feet corrected from last week instead of 120, it's 100 foot, approximately 100 foot, according to the old plans. And so you do have a major expense on those joints. I mean, there's going to be a major expense at some point. Where that's going to be, you know, that's a tough projection. But that is going to be a major expense. You are investing in Old Highway 50 to be able to do all of this, to be able to put those shoulders on there. But you will make the road safer. Of all the roads that we have, it's the only one that's 20 foot wide. And it's the second highest volume of traffic that we have in the county. Those are the old numbers. I think those are 2013 numbers is what you saw in that report. But that's what you're dealing with.
Did we change anything east of 31 as far as what we've done?
Basically on between 75 and 31 is what we had there is we have 4 inches of asphalt and a fabric over the existing shouldering, and then we also have a portion of the fabric over the pavement. And we overlaid all of that, so we tied it all together. We have, as I say, at least 4 inches of additional asphalt that was placed on that shoulder instead of just the 2. And then we also have the fabric on it. The section from 31 going east, we started out first trying to mill it. And so we milled it, and we had placed some millings and tried to get some compaction in there. And so we had done that, but we were not satisfied with those compactions because we were getting some blowouts on that. And so we've done some additional asphalt on it as well. As far as the fabric onto it, I'd have to double check the plans, but I do know that from 31 going back to 75 was fabric on the edges. I'm not for sure on the other end. On 31, I'm thinking it was, but I'm not real certain at this point.
Because I don't see any fixed places or holes in it. Or was that the last one we did, the stretch?
Well, what you're finding right there is you're seeing less truck traffic from 31 going east. You're going to see truck traffic from 31 to 75. Okay, so you have several companies. You have a truss company that basically utilizes their semis onto it. Then there are also some rock from, say for example, you get rock from north of Waverly. You have the Harshman Quarry up there. You get the rock coming down 31, and then what they'll do is they'll come over on Old 50. But keeping in mind that on those type of trucks, you're doing 85.5 or 90,000, depends on the axle on the trailer. But they cannot do that on the interstate. They can only run 80,000 without a permit on the interstate at this point. And so that's part of our problem. But yes, long answer perhaps, but.
Can they get a permit to carry a heavier load on the interstate?
Yes, they can.
What? Is that something we need to try to persuade? We need to find some common ground for what we're spending.
Mm-hmm.
And get the length of longevity out of it. I didn't realize that a trucker could apply for a permit to haul heavier loads on interstates.
Well, basically like their super loads, I mean, that's a permit. It's a permit process. But to do the individual type of rock loads, I'm not for sure on that. You know, if they have like some type of batch permitting, but I'm sure there's also additional costs onto it. I know we have a minimum cost, but then what we're asking then is we're asking the trucking industry to pay additional fees to be able to haul 85.5 on interstate.
But they could also drive 75 mile an hour compared to 55. They'd make that probably up in time.
There is that aspect of it, yeah.
I'm trying to find some common ground so that our cost for that road is going to last a longer period of time.
And I agree. I know I have done some testimony with legislation on, it was heavy trucks that was actually proposing or had done some legislation onto it, and I had done some testimony on it. It's throughout the state, and especially on Old 50, if you take a look at Old 50s, they don't have limestone in the western portion of Kansas, and so what they're doing is they're shipping all the limestone over to the western side, for the most part. And so that's what you're dealing with. It's not only us, it's also Lyon County as well. They run Old Highway 50 until they actually are US 50. But they're dealing with it as well. Local roads take the hit on those. So it's out there. I don't know what the answer is. I would hope legislation has, but I don't know what the answer is. I mean, the only thing I had proposed is routing. I know it's not favorable, but the only thing was proposed with routing would be the only thing that you could do, and that's just limit your loads on certain roads. I know it's not popular, so I just leave it at that.
Did you, and maybe you told me before, how far each way of those joints we have deterioration in that concrete?
I'm expecting at this point 10 feet on both sides, so I would say a 20-foot section is what you'd be
20
replacing.
by 20, basically.
Yes, sir. And so, of
For
course,
7 miles.
yes, sir. Well, that's just one section. I mean, you're going to eventually have it on all of them.
Right.
But the worst one is from 75 to Lebo. Has been the worst joints. And I think what you've noticed there is something that you've noticed, Don, that you've brought up different times. Seems to be, there's more underground water issues that's occurring on that stretch. And if you take a look at the train, that's probably the reason for it. And so I think that's what we're dealing with there. That's the reason why those joints are more filling, is water is able to not only seep from the bottom, but water's underneath. And so as water's underneath, when you come to those joints, you basically fracture. You allow that clay to actually heave up and swell and shrink. So. But at this point, so it's kind of the consensus is leave it alone, or would you want to look at it? And if you want to look at a spring project, that'd be great. I think give us some time.
If you're talking laying asphalt shoulders, I think it's gonna be hard pressed to get that, a decent price to get that done before the season shuts down. I guess my thinking, I could be wrong.
Okay.
I am not in favor of going back and spending more money on asphalt. I think we've talked about this a few months ago. And to make it the safest road we can, we talked that we needed to go in and get rid of those shoulders that we put in there. And I think what you might have said, I'm hoping this is what you said earlier, was go in, we grind those up, and then they become basically like gravel shoulders again, and let the blade guys do them like they did. If the truckers want to run that, then they're gonna have to take that deal. The big issue to me is those joints are not the issue right now. That's a problem. It's those shoulders that's a problem, and we need to address those and not worry about the joints so much, because we've already bought 2 new tires and wheels for one vehicle. We're gonna have an accident up there one of these days, and then we're gonna be paying dearly. But it's a county road. It's not a super highway. We don't need to spend money on it. People want to run on super highway, they can go a mile north and run the whole county. That's my opinion on it. So I've never voted to spend any money on it because I thought it was foolish to start out with, and I'm still going to vote against it. So that's just where I stand with it.
No, I understand. There is just for clarification, road hazards exist, and I'm not approving any of this. Please don't take what I'm saying to be approval, but I just want to get clarification. Road hazards exist, okay, throughout the state, throughout the nation. You're going to have potholes, you're going to have drop-offs, different things like that. There is a certain amount of responsibility that the owner must take. And so we will own up to our responsibility to maintain the roads as safely as possible. But there are conditions where potholes may exist or crumbling edges may exist. People still have their responsibility to drive safely and drive to the conditions which basically exist on the roads. And so there is a balance there, but road hazards do exist. I'm not I'm not trying to separate myself from the fact that we have issues with the edges. But I just want to make the clarification. We do have road hazards that do exist. Those instances where two tires were, it basically was warranted. There was a pothole that had developed that was there for a period of time that did not have a chance to be repaired or was not basically repaired in a timely manner. So there was responsibility. But if there's a pothole that develops, it doesn't say that basically we're responsible because road hazards do exist. And I just want to make clarification, Bob, for.
But the potholes are not existing on the 20-foot wide road. They're existing on the shoulders and 2 foot where we put people moving over 2 foot are where the potholes are at. So basically, in a sense, we have created the potholes.
My point is on road hazards. Road hazards are basically addressed to our insurance companies. And so that's where we have to be.
That's what the question I had. Without providing a safer drive lane, what is our liability? You know, I have a problem spending more money on it too. Yet we got a responsibility of making it as safe as we can. But at what level do we have extra liability on behalf of the county because it's a county road?
And
there's probably not a clean answer for that either.
Thank you for saying that, because there's not.
Drive Highway 35 right now, Highway 35, I'd be, the state or the Fed, whatever it is, they need to be ashamed of providing a service out there like they got right now.
Oh, I agree. And that's a perfect example. That helps lead in. So
That's my thing.
if I can have just a little leeway on this one, Bob, is there's potholes that exist, road hazards exist throughout the state. And if you look at, say, for example, if we want to compare 35, as you brought it up, which is a perfect example, people blow tires at those points. There is a certain responsibility that the state has, the county has as well. We try to do the best we can with the conditions that we have. And so there's certain things that we have placed in measures is we show that basically we have a reduced speed, I believe, on there, caution 45, and we have rough edges, I believe, is what we have. So there's certain measures to allow the traveling public to make decisions and informed information on the condition of the road. It doesn't take away that we need to do something to it as far as shouldering at this point, but there are liabilities that exist. We try to address with what we can until I get approval or direction to either grind up those shoulders and lay it back, or just grind those shoulders up and put it back to gravel. That's the discussion we're really dealing with today. But if you're wanting to have a spring project, and I know, and that works just fine.
I was saying spring when we were talking about asphalt and shoulders. I think, keep in mind, we're talking about two different things of just removing that asphalt, and putting some rock in there and being done with it. Or going and doing a cement treated base and extending out past the edge of the road and compacting that, the cement treated base, to make it to where it's, if you did put asphalt on it, it would hold up better than what it has. So you're talking two different complete costs.
That's exactly right.
So I just want to make sure everybody understood the two differences there, whether we're just, I mean, there's no sense in hiring somebody to come in and put a cement treated base in there if we're not even going to consider asphalt, making that asphalt road wider.
To do it right.
In my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and yeah, those joints, someday it's going to come back and haunt you, and it's going to be a cost. I mean, I put a rough number together. If you went 7 miles, you're looking at $1 million almost.
Yeah.
So where do you want your liability in and quit on that road?
If you don't mind.
It's going to become a maintenance issue for years and years and years to come if we don't do something to do it right now. I mean, the correct way. I mean, don't do it right now, but do it the correct way. Now, we laid asphalt from county line to county line, you said it was $1 million, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 33, is it like roughly 30 miles, 29 miles?
27.
27.
Okay, so you're looking at 30-some thousand dollars a mile. So that 7-mile stretch, in all reality, you didn't spend a whole lot of money on them shoulders because we didn't do a whole lot of preparation. So to actually come back and do, I mean, on the other stretches, you put the fabric in, and for whatever reason that didn't happen on this. It's irrelevant to me right now. The relevant part to me is that it's not safe. We need to do something. And people are asking questions. So one is turn it back to gravel and be done. 2 is you get a cement treated base in there where when you do mill and overlay that road, at least when you do put those asphalt, and you do make that wider, you do make it safer for our school buses to travel down that road, it'll hold up. So that's the question. Do we want to proceed with the cement treated base, or do you just want to put it back where it was? Or just the way it was?
As you're going through those scenarios, which I totally agree, could we possibly add this as possibly, maybe next week I could come up with a motion just to have that milled and ground up and then allow it to set over the winter. And then by next year, you can say if you want to spend the money, it's gonna be considerable money to do it right. I mean, the idea is let's do it right.
Exactly.
So if you're wanting to spend the money for next year, then we could be able to get a project, because there's just no way, like you said, there's no way we're gonna do asphalt. There's no, cement treated base would be questionable, but there'd really be no way on asphalt this year. But we could grind it up.
Possible, but I don't see it.
We could grind it up. It would be a contract to do that.
If you grind it up and put it back as, basically as gravel, that's what the grindings would be.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter whether you do it now. If you go in and you do all this stuff Tom's talking about doing later, you're gonna have to take those shoulders out anyway.
Agreed.
Well, if you got it ground up, maybe at least it's something we can use somewhere else. If you just dig them out, you got chunks that you're never gonna use, so.
Well,
And we need to get it fixed. And I hate to spend more money and more money and more money on it, but we need to get it fixed because it's not a safe road right now, in my opinion.
I would agree with grinding it up if that's what you'd like. And then at that point, you can have that discussion if you want to spend more money on to fix it, to widen it out.
I'm not opposed to it, I'll say that.
But now there will be those edges, even though we see the 2 foot to be, basically the area, you actually see that asphalt creeping in on the 20
You're not
foot.
gonna have it cut off. It's gonna be, you're gonna have asphalt that's loose and it's peeling out. Or
Along
you only
the-
got an 18-foot road or a 19-foot road.
That's correct, sir.
I'm
Yeah.
sure of that.
So we're still gonna be dealing with basically edges, not as bad, okay, I'll quantify that, not as bad, but we're still gonna be dealing with rough edges, uneven surfaces at the edges. I mean, that's what you're gonna be dealing with until you fix it. But we can grind it, we can make it safer, turning it back to basically more gravel. We are narrowing it up, so we're kind of reducing that safety as well. But we can at least take care of those potholes that are developing along that edge. That is being repaired through spot patching. That's really not an answer. All it was a Band-Aid fix.
You're always talking about safe, and you just made the comment. By doing that, we can make it safer.
Yes.
So
then
why
what
is
is
there a
condition?
question then? If that's what you're always talking about is safety, why is it even a question if it makes it safer?
I agree. That's where I'm moving forward as well. So if you'd like, I would like to have a motion for next week, would be to enter into a contract, and that way it'll give me a chance to get some numbers, see what the grinding would be. And then we'd enter into a contract or enter into the bidding process for a contract, just to grind it up. I mean, that's all it amounts to. Then we, lay it back, smooth it off, roll it. We're still gonna have some edges, the old asphalt's still gonna be crumbling away just a little bit. But then you're also gonna be given some time come spring, just to say that we want to make this a project. And actually, it's gonna be December. That's when I come in with my 2021 project list. And then at that point, you can decide if that's what you want to do. But keep in mind too, that you have close to $500,000 left over in the asphalt fund. Either that one basically pays for the 1.2 million that I have for next year as we were going through the budgeting process, or that adds on top of it. If it adds on top of it, it's gonna give me more money to be able to fix Old Highway 50, if that's where you wanna go.
I'd like to see you add to it.
That
I'd like
would,
to add to it.
then, that would
That
be,
way, if we do decide to do that, but
funds are right there.
we're ready to proceed, let him just get that ground up and put it back to gravel for now.
I thought it brings back a bit next week on grinding it up.
I can have some rough numbers for you, but the bidding process is, yeah, I'd have to go through the bidding process.
But your rough numbers are normally fairly accurate, so.
I would say that.
Proceed.
Okay.
I think everybody's been agreed.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Need a break, Bob?
Yes, we got.
Well, Karen, do you have something?
I do.
Go ahead.
I would like to request an executive session to discuss non-elected personnel to protect their privacy, for about 10 minutes.
Would we need Wade in this?
Yeah. You pertaining to what? We have to say what it's pertaining to, basically.
Medical privacy.
Okay. And there, I don't know what the numbers for that would be.
I don't either.
That
It
probably-
would sound like we'd have to have Wade though.
Do you think we need Wade?
No.
Okay.
I think it would be under that same 75, 43, 19, B1, I believe.
Yeah, I
get the
think it
correct
would be
number.
still privacy, yeah.
For how long?
I think 10 minutes.
Donna's moved, what she said.
I'll second.
Fred second, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
All right, I'll check my time. We'll go in, just us, the commission and you, correct?
Yes, that's fine.
We'll go in at 10 o'clock and come out at 10:10.
Oh, always are pretty good this morning until the weather's changed.
It
is.
Going right here.
Well, when I seen the weather forecast, like 65. I'm liking that, like, I kind of like that. I just gotta get my phones to start accepting it. Yeah, Tom. Arthritis, Tylenol arthritis. It does pretty good. What do you think, Michael?
I think.
What'd you do this weekend?
Golf.
Golf? A lot. I tried golfing Sunday. We went to a place there where my father-in-law lives in Arkansas. It's a retired Bella Vista. It's nothing but retirement folks, but anyway, they have golf courses there.
Right on, what is that, 49?
Yeah.
580?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful course right there.
Boy, there's not, most of the Bella Vista is a property owners association, and they have 9 golf courses. And, God, everyone is busy this morning, we play on. Jesus Christ, keep my ass. It was fun, but oh shit, it was challenging. Cool. Well, and that, driver, that airway, maybe that's fine.
That we did Friday. I'm gonna bring some this week.
Corn cars, did that. Really big farm. They got hogs now. Yeah, they got hogs down there, and so they got, shoot them, and there's, I said, well, a season, you don't have to have shit. Yeah, you don't have to have any, they trap them down there too. He's got his son, the stepson, has, they set up like a corral in the woods there. It's got a trap door on it. And he said at one time they caught 31 hogs at one time. And, they shoot them. And then that's it. And stuff. They come get them. Yeah.
You get 100 gram more, that's not your limit.
Smaller the better. They have one all tough and nasty.
Well,
Yeah. Do they really?
If you run a 100 pound dog,
Really?
if you sit and shoot them off the field.
Yeah.
Really? While you're smoking, you're gonna put it in.
Right.
What part of the evening is it? Okay.
Yeah, Baltimore said they shoot them and basically they'll load them up and haul them in, and Mexicans that live in like a regular market area, you show up, but just, you take them no matter what size, big, little, small, in between. Yeah, that's what they said. They just leave them whole, and they just get them out and everything, and they put them on a spit, or they, or put them down in a ground hole and cover them with holes, and just leave them there, and let that meat smoke. And, we didn't see any around there. We have a couple little ponds. You can see one pond where they've been going in and out of that mud and stuff, and rubbing up against the tree, you know, and if they get out. And I just, grandpa was showing me, kind of like a rug, a deer rug, you know, same thing, hogs, they rub their hide to get that mud and stuff back off, and they'll rub squat on a tree from the ground up, about 2 foot. And I'm like, I don't know, I never messed with it before. He said one time they were hunting deer hunting out there, and it was dark, and they walked along there, coming out or whatever, and they heard him squealing and everything, and shine a light up there, and there's always a piglets there. And squealing was the mama over here, and they were like, oh, we ain't in the right spot. Luckily, the piglets turned around and ran back to her. That's what they say.
There already is out there.
Yeah, sweet.
We really think it's going to be important one day, next month, every day. I think it's going to be meeting. It's awesome. And so if we really important to come back with a shot, or she may not, they will do it.
Really?
They might pick somebody to try and take it. But it wasn't fair. Had to do it for fair, good times and everything.
And some of these things they're migrating. We had one here shot years ago.
A couple years ago, a hunter going to he set up a big crate, and filled it with foam, made like a freezer type closet, you got pack ice, put elk in. We lost one of those, the elk meat was laying out on the interstate. But, they say within the next couple of years, we're gonna be infested.
I imagine Kansas will do is probably like everything else says, they're fair game, but they're not, because they're not a natural, but they're not natural wildlife for Kansas. And they, supposedly they won't regulate them. That's gonna be fun. I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna get the night vision scope. I've gotta get a scope for my AR. Sit there.
Better than that, because you never know what's right.
Oh, that's true. And, you know, it's, but, that would be fun. Yeah. You know, I've probably signed off on more silence applications in the last year than I have in my career. And one day, you know, this is like doing silence or three different ways. Well, it's like different, hunting different things. You can have maybe hunt hollows down in Texas, on the silences, but otherwise you have kind of not normal gun. You shoot one, the rest of them just and they're gone, you're done. Whereas with the silencer, you don't spook them. Right. 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 Step it down. That's right. You can't go up, but you can go down.
I'm sure it's going to not be as quiet.
It'll change the dynamic of it, not much.
Carl Sherman is selling more silencers. Yeah, this guy said, yeah, I went in there to buy one, and come out with two. It's like Carl talking to he ain't wrong, he ain't wrong. And
When he tried it, I started to push on him, because you know, on the bike, and everybody else said no. And I showed him.
Really last night is, they said it's going to stay warm here.
Yeah.
I guess that's relative.
really, that would be cool. That's cool. I like concept. Oh, that Harrison shooters. Well, I'll stop in and look at one that. Yeah, that's what I heard. You want to get something to drink, I'll be back. Oh,
Mushroom, corn, shrimp, frog legs. I go down once a year. No, it's south of Oak Grove. It's a little north of, it's a little north of, a little north of. South.
Hey, Tim, I laid those papers on your desk that you wanted me to print out.
We copied Jeremiah, that was at your house, and empty here in a couple weeks, you know why? You get hold of that, go to Lindsay,
Okay.
or something like that. You need them in the session.
We are. Yeah, I'll take a break.
Oh, yes, we're gonna break for 10 minutes. Forgot about that. Bobby, we need break. You on break?
Can you go ahead and sign each of
Sorry?
those? Can you sign each of these here where the name is? Several on each page, so.
Okay.
we're gonna want her to pay it, so.
Yeah.
I went to, and I heard the story and I felt bad, but I still went to.
I think everybody made it back. We're waiting on Wade. So, Mike, you got some information you want to share with us?
Yeah, Wade just want me to do a general update, kind of where we're at.
Awesome, thank you.
We're still currently sitting with 11 inmates currently in-house here in Coffee County, so that's 12 in Anderson County, 1 in Osawatomie. Since last Monday, like I said earlier, there's been 15 arrests, 3 are still in jail. Other than that, that's kind of where we're sitting. Numbers are still up. And everybody that's been able to bond, post bond, or get out, they've done that. The rest of these are usually felonies or a high bond that they can't afford to get out on.
How many would you have here in Coffee County?
11,
Yeah, and you got, but how many there?
12,
There's just no way to bring any of those 12 back
not right now.
now, right now, because of the issues.
Well, there's a couple other issues that have transpired over the couple of weeks, but those people are pretty much stuck there for a couple of weeks. So,
And then you were gonna have someone get hold of.
yes.
Word on the staff.
Yep, I haven't had a chance to talk to the sheriff yet, and I did ask Tasha, they said that's all they wanted to do is go back 3 years. There's no rhyme or reason, but we'll call and find out.
We got a reason, that's all that matters.
I just feel like they need to go back at least 10, I mean, when you're expanding an operation, that's what we're doing.
Right.
You want more history available in 3 years, in my opinion.
Nope, and I'll give Randy and we'll get somebody
Somebody
to make
got
that
to
talk.
back up, why you need to expand.
Okay.
And I think we all realize part of it.
Yep, and just, I'll throw this out there again, I know the sheriff's thrown this out, that, if you guys wanna come up and tour the jail, come see where we're at, and what we got going, it's more than welcome anytime.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that what it was on Wade? Is there some roundtable discussions? Randy, you got
I don't
anything?
have anything at this moment.
Mr. Johnson?
Just need to mention that I probably need to leave at 2 o'clock.
2. We had a meeting at 1 o'clock.
Right.
If I remember right, he's coming here this time. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
I don't either, other than I need to leave 2:15, so hopefully it'll be total number 1.
I guess I don't really have something. Put it out on 50.
While we're waiting, Lindsay, would you like to give the folks in the county kind of an update on just your office, things you're doing,
Sure, we're
if you
working.
would? I
We're
understand
working
that.
constantly.
People know
No rest for the weary. Sure, our case count today for COVID, I believe, is around 13. we're hoping to recover 7 today. We still have to verify a couple more with phone calls that we'll make after this meeting, but so we'll announce those tomorrow. So a lot of people are recovering nicely. So that's been good. We worked through the weekend. We did get a couple new cases in this weekend and had 2 staff working most of the day on Sunday. So when I came in and worked yesterday, we've made some changes with how we're handling it inside the office, which I don't know if you care to know, but it seems at times that we have nurses, all 3 doing everything all at once. And so now we've dedicated a COVID nurse for the whole week, and they have call on the weekend coming. So, and of course there's staff to back us up when we need help, but we're looking at maybe creating some teams to where it's a nurse and a clerk on at the same time. Because it's turning into I'm the backup for everybody. So if there's a big case, I'm the person that comes in regardless of who's working. So if we do teams, it would be a nurse and a clerk together. We do hope to have, our new staff person on, that you guys hopefully voted on that or will be voting on that today.
We did.
Thank you. That will help us tremendously, skill set wise. They'll be able to jump right in, need very little training on some of those things that have to be done right now. So very pleased about that. So we're just trying to make it work. I think we cannot go forward with it how it is now. It's just becoming too much. One case could lead to 11 hours of work just in that one day, and it needs to be done right away. So it's pretty daunting. We're making it through, but we really have to make some changes in order to sustain this very long. We know flu season is coming upon us. We have calls daily for when we're giving flu shots. We're trying to get that scheduled. We're working through whether or not we can still do drive-throughs this year. We definitely won't be able to do 2 a week. If we are able to do them, we'll only be able to do 1 a week. We just don't think we can bog down 2 nights a week in case we have cases come up. It's just too much for staff. So we're working through all of that. I think this whole last 6 months has really brought us closer together as an office, as a team, but it's wearing on us, and we tell the state that every chance we get. So we really would love to push for this to be, for not every person to have to be quarantined. We're really pushing for a more common sense approach, really focusing like we did from the very beginning on people who are older and people who have underlying health conditions. Those are where our focus really, really needs to be. But young, healthy people, this is most often a sinus infection or a cold. So I'm quarantining people for a cold, and that's getting old. They're having to take 2 weeks off of their life to sit home and wait for a cold to maybe appear. So we're really, really pushing at the state level to help us make this a lot more easier on health departments. So let's take some more common sense with this. We have kids missing weeks and weeks of school. They were all wearing a mask. If they have to wear the masks, why do they still have to quarantine? We're just really pushing those questions. And, if you're mandating masks, then why are we still having to quarantine kids in school? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So again, questioning processes when we can and really trying to make sense of everything when we can. So we might be a rebel health department. I don't know if you ever get news from Coffee County being a rebel health department, but I feel like at times that's what we're doing. But again, when you look at it, what we see from the phone calls we make daily, that's what we see. And so we just, less than 1% of people that get COVID die from it. Less than 1%. We're making all of these changes for less than 1% death rate. And again, 1 death is too many, but flu kills more children than COVID does. And we don't make these extreme cautions for flu for kids. I think maybe we'll talk a little later today about, as a county organization, what you guys' stance is. If, let's say today I came in and I have a sore throat and a runny nose, technically that means I could be a person under an investigation because I have 2 symptoms of COVID. I haven't been around anyone that's had it that I know of, so I'm not a contact, but, we need to know how you want us to operate if that's our staff. If our staff are presenting with slight symptoms, how do you want us to handle that? And if we have to quarantine somebody who might have been exposed here at work, how do you want us to handle that?
How are you handling testing?
How are we handling testing? So right now, our main testing is done at Coffee County Hospital. They can do a rapid testing only for certain people. They have usually restricted that to if you're inpatient in the hospital, if you're in the emergency room, or if you're someone who has a high number of contacts. Like if you were a school teacher, a police officer, a nurse, those types of things. So those people would qualify for a rapid test. And again, we don't make any of the testing decisions. That's all them. We have chosen not to do testing at our site right now. Again, we want to stay a well clinic. We're bringing in well babies and well people for preventative care. We'd like to keep it that way as much as we can. If somebody has been in quarantine for at least 2 days and they become symptomatic, we don't require them to be tested and we don't push them to be tested. And that's because if you've been around a positive case, which you have because you're in quarantine, and you get symptoms that look like COVID, we just assume you have it. We call it a probable case. And we treat you as though you're positive. You get 10 days of isolation and you move on. And the reason for that is if you've been in quarantine for 2 days, you should have no new contacts. So if you've been in quarantine 1 day and you become positive or symptomatic, we have to subtract 48 hours from that. And then we have to capture all the people you might have exposed in that, what we call negative 48 hours, negative 2 days. So that would make sense to test you if you have a lot of people in that. But if you've been in quarantine for a couple days and you get symptoms, we call you what you look like. We call you COVID. So, so does that clarify what you might have been thinking about testing?
I was just wondering, what if a person might have had symptoms and you put them in quarantine and 2 days later or 3, they didn't have symptoms anymore? How do you know if they're a carrier or not?
We might not know. We might not know.
So if it was an employee, why would you still want them to be in quarantine when they could be going back to work?
So if they're symptomatic and in quarantine, they actually turn to isolation. So just to clarify the terminology, if you're ill, you get isolated. So, and you're absolutely accurate. We don't know, but they still would have to quarantine. So if they test and they test negative, they still have to quarantine for 2 weeks. If they test and they test positive, they actually get 10 days instead of 14. So, I don't know, but if, in the instance I gave that if I came to work with a runny nose and a sore throat, it doesn't mean I need to go get tested. I mean, we really preach to people to stay home when you're sick, and we hope people follow that. But this thing can look like allergies in most people, and it does. It really, truly does. And right now with corn harvest getting underway, with hay season still underway in some areas, we're still seeing allergies, we're still seeing sinus infections. So if it weren't a COVID year, nobody would be staying home or going to the doctor or staying home from school or work at all, because it really truly looks like allergies and sinus infections in most people.
Yeah, that's my concern. If there were 20 people that had allergies and we just assumed they might have COVID, it looks like a tremendous loss of manpower, so to speak.
Absolutely. It can be. We've been working with, especially USD 244, on their return to school policies for students. and doing what Dr. Shell wants us to do with them. And it's not what's recommended by CDC, and but it's what he wants us to do, so it's what we're doing. So if a student comes to school or stays home, gets sent home with symptoms of COVID, 2 symptoms. So again, let's say runny nose, sore throat. We have a flow chart that we follow. They either need to go get tested, and then we act accordingly, or they need to go to the doctor to get a note saying it's not COVID, it's something else, and then they can come back when their fever's gone or whatever. Or they have to stay home for 10 days from the onset of symptoms. And so that, while it's meeting the intent of what Dr. Shell wants to keep sick kids who might have COVID away, it's created some issues for parents, or it will create issues for parents. If your kid is a kid like mine who, when he was littler, had a runny nose every single day. Tonsils were huge every single day. Like, is he ever going to be in school? And so it's either going to have parents lying, it's going to rack up medical bills for them going to the doctor every week or two, and then, or they're going to be missing a lot of work, staying home with their younger children. So it's not a perfect world in any way. It's all doing the best we can with what we have. So we do know in elderly this can be awful. We do know when people have underlying health issues, this can be awful. So that's what I think our focus should be on. If you're at risk, you need to protect yourself. And I've said that. I remember standing here saying that in March, April, as the data was coming in. I still firmly believe that, and we've seen that in our long-term care facility. So, but we've also seen young, healthy people test positive that have no symptoms, that have sinus symptoms or allergy symptoms. So it's one big, interesting mess that creates a lot of work.
So you're saying that if a person has 2 of the symptoms and decides that they are sick, that you're not recommending they go get tested, because why?
Why would they not go get tested?
Yes, why would you not say,
So,
okay?
If it's a runny nose and a sore throat, I would say drink some warm water, gargle with salt, water. See how you feel by the afternoon. Because in allergies and sinus, those things go away by afternoon usually. Take a Zyrtec, take a Benadryl, whatever usually works for you. I mean, that's just general nursing advice. My normal nursing advice in a normal year would not be, you need to go to the doctor and get a test, or you need to go to the doctor and do anything. It's, let's treat this at home. Let's see what we can do at home. I mean, just because it's COVID doesn't mean we have to run and shove something in somebody's nasal cavity every time they sniffle, I guess is what I'm saying. So it's just, I think right now we're at a place where doctors aren't being allowed to practice medicine and nurses aren't being allowed to make assessments. Like we've always been able to, like we've earned these licenses and degrees. We should be able to use them like we always have. So I guess that's where I'm at with it. Not everything is COVID. And we're coming into flu season, we're already seeing influenza. I had a provider tell me they're already seeing some positive flu testing going on. So that, again, we're gonna see a lot of, is it flu or is it COVID? I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I just try to use common sense as best I can. I hope that's okay.
So if a person goes in, has symptoms and thinks it's flu, and if they would go in and test negative, do they still have to?
Test negative for what?
COVID.
For COVID.
They still have to be quarantined?
If they were a contact of a positive, yes.
Contacted with.
But if they are just having symptoms and they're negative, no. Yeah, a negative test does not get you out of quarantine, and that's a huge misnomer. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to go test then, and I'm going to test negative and get out. No, you still have to do your 2 weeks. So really, at the end of the day, it's the 6 foot changes all of this. Keep your distance, 6 foot. Keep your time short, 6 foot. That will keep you out of an investigation. That will keep you hopefully from getting sick. That's what we're dealing with every day, all day. Anything
Well,
else?
hopefully your extra person will help you. When you
I don't think so. I'm confident it will help.
When was the person start?
It all depended on today and your decision.
We did approve it.
So I have to let them know so they can get proper notice.
We did sign off on it.
Okay. So hopefully 2 weeks, possibly 3.
Lindsay, pardon me, Lindsay, I've got a question or two come up that the Thanksgiving dinner we always have every year.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna have a lot of, all the employees or most of them will be together. Spouses will be involved that have never been involved before. That is something we need to cancel this year.
I don't know that we need to cancel it. We at least need to make some, maybe a few changes with it. I know I've drafted an email that I send it out to you.
And I
Yeah,
said that we could probably manage to do so 2 buildings.
yeah. I just recommended if we could spread out further.
Can't do that till we're having.
We have the possibility of using both buildings.
I was gonna see if the other one's available.
One option is to do, have stuff already, not pre-packaged, but put in plates already, but I'm kind of like to go containers. I really recommend not doing having somebody fill the drinks, just I would do bottles of water or tea or whatever, instead of having someone fill that, because that's a lot of touching ice, touching cups, touching handles. I would do bottle of water.
What if, and I'm gonna just suggest it, but it's up to you guys, what is the thought on, instead of each office doing a dish, what if we just like had a catered dinner this time? And that way you just have the same people, you know, that way it's not coming from different households and, you know, I don't know.
We've had spouses before.
Pardon?
We've had spouses.
Well, I realize that, but not in this scenario.
And I would recommend that you have somebody serving it rather than each individual person taking
Everybody
their
grants
own.
something,
Yeah.
there needs to be some steps taken.
Yeah, there can be some changes made to still have it be feasible. I think it's still doable.
Maybe catering's a way to help reduce
Just this
exposure
time,
too.
And spreading out. It's nice to have us all together, but this year, maybe not. But I still like eating turkey and mashed potatoes. Some pie.
You can have some pie anyway.
Yeah. Good way to make it back.
do you guys want me to check into pricing on that or?
I think it would hurt to check it.
Check.
I don't think we could get a price, and I think maybe you're right. I don't know what you think of people bringing it in from a lot of different locations might not be the ideal situation this year.
It's not really known to spread through food, but it would be more of
The stuff that,
Handling it.
the handling of it.
and
Yeah.
I think we ought to definitely entertain some type of catering. But that's just my thought.
you know, for the most part, we cater the turkey and we cater the dressing usually out anyway. So we're not talking a whole lot more. And we can just get bottled water. It's worth checking out.
Yeah.
You should check that out for us.
Maybe we won't have as much of a spread, you know, since we're not having all of that, but, you know, if you have the basics and a salad or something in the time. Kind of maybe simpler this year than normal.
Gotta keep a little joy left in life.
It would be nice to do that for the employees.
right.
We'll wait and see, thank you.
Yep, I'll wait for me.
John's gonna check on the way.
That's all.
In reality, Sturgis, they had, how many thousands of people? And they ended up only, what, 460 cases or something like that back to Sturgis, so. It's
300,000.
About
600,000.
Through the 3 weeks.
Yep, no, I think they had a big crowd.
They had one death.
yeah, big.
But he wrecked his bike in the Springfield.
Yeah, they had one death out of it.
True story.
That was a 62-year-old person who had a couple other underlying cases anyway.
Yeah, he wrecked his bike.
Hmm?
Wrecked his bike.
You know, motorcycle wrecks, we said.
So
That's because
It's,
he's a positive COVID, they call it COVID test.
Come on, November.
That's exactly right.
Okay. So you, that's another timeline. Do you have anything for roundtable?
I don't think I do. Brad's gonna set up for the, 1
It's in
o'clock.
person. It's in
oh,
person.
that's right. It's in person.
We tried that.
Nothing on the calendar this week. Fred's got fiberboard next Tuesday. That's it.
Is planning and zoning this week?
Pardon?
Is planning and zoning this week?
Yeah, this week. I think it's tomorrow.
No, it's the 16th.
The 16th?
Wayne said it's the 16th.
Yeah, that's next week.
Next week.
Well, we need a little more time, so. Option 1 is to recess and come back at 12:30. Option 2.
we'll work for those two. Check with them. They're gonna be in on it too, so.
It sounds like Wade needs a little more time. Do you want to, is like 12:30 okay, or?
I'll make work, whatever you say.
Because he didn't give us a timeline how long it'll be, he said to finish a case, so. Surely they, actually by the time we get up and leave, he'll walk in.
Probably.
If we can get a break, not a break, so
I would assume
he'd be available at probably 12:30, if that worked for him and everyone else.
a group decision would be great.
12:30 is fine.
I mean, we gotta be here 1 for our interview anyway. I would assume if we recess till 12:30 and then go back in session, 20 minutes would get this under wraps. So if everybody's in agreement, that's what we'll do. Recess at 10:44. Come back at 12:30.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't have anything?
I didn't have anything.
Okay.
No.
Not too bad. You're too good.